Thank you for watching the Atkinson Gazette. I'm your host, Michael Boucher. In today's episode, I will be joined by members of the Police Station Steering Committee. Before I start our discussion, I want to highlight the history and development of exploring the need for a new police station. The effort dates back to several years ago. What you're seeing now is an image of the current police station. The current police station has had different uses since the 1800s. The building was originally a church, then a school. Now you're looking at a list of issues found in the current building. The current police station does not meet current standards. I am now showing renderings of the new proposed police station building. Lastly, I'll display the website of the Police Station Steering Committee, which lists the committee members. Now let's begin the interview.
Hello everyone, this is Michael Boucher for the Atkinson Gazette. I'm here with members of the Police Station Steering Committee. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mark.
Before we kind of get started with what the Police Steering Committee is, do you mind just introducing yourselves?
No. Yeah, thanks. I'm Dave Cacciatti, a resident here in Atkinson, and appreciate you doing this for us today.
And I'm Sam Butler, also resident in Atkinson. And again, thank you very much for giving us the chance to talk to people in town about the police station.
Good morning, Matt Casey, also resident of Atkinson, and looking forward to getting the information.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, I mean, the most obvious question I have to ask you guys is, what is the Police Station Steering Committee?
Yeah, sure. So several years ago, the Board of Selectmen decided that a police station needed to have a new one and build a new one. So they put out a call to action to have this police station looked into. As a byproduct of that, the most recent Board of Selectmen decided that a police steering committee would be helpful in garnering support from the residents of Atkinson and looking and assisting the contractors that would be involved in potentially building a new station to help facilitate that and help get the word out to the people of Atkinson about what the police station is, what the current police station looks like, and the rationale on why it needs to, we need a new constructed police station. So a call went out to a number of residents in the town to see if we had some expertise that would be willing to come forward and lend the expertise that each of us may have in being a part of the steering committee. And so a number of residents stepped up on a voluntary basis, and the police steering committee was born out of that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought up that people were asked to volunteer and there were experts that were called to join this committee. So let's kind of let me ask that question. Like, what do you guys all bring as experts in this committee? Matt, we'll start with you.
So I'm a degreed civil engineer. I've been in the construction business for pushing 30 years. Do a lot of heavy highway civil work, wastewater treatment plants, and a lot of industrial building. So I think I have enough background to keep the nuances in order and make sure we're heading down the right path and choosing the right contracts and the correct contractors and the products and everything that we need that keep it a good police station, but keep the basics and not overrun costs.
Okay. Sam?
I'm probably a bit of an anomaly on the committee. I'm both the finance guy and secretary. And I actually have the qualifications for both. I was a banker for many years and worked on Wall Street as not as an investment banker, but as an actual bond trader, fixed income trader, as they say. So I know bonds and bond issues fairly well. Since the station is going to be funded partially with a bond, mostly with a bond, I hope to bring that expertise in as well. I'm also a writer, so that brings that side in as the guy who drafts the notes, drafts the minutes, writes the maybe the public announcements that then everybody else redoes. But you gotta have somebody write the first draft, so I'm the guy who writes the first draft. That's what I do.
All right, great.
Yeah, Sam does all the hard work.
Oh, no, sorry.
So yeah, I my expertise is in occupational safety and health. So the work environment in which people conduct whatever work that they're involved with, make sure that they're safe at work. In previous life, I'm a retired Air Force, and 15 years of my career in the Air Force was as a law enforcement police officer. We're also fortunate that, of the folks sitting here for this particular meeting, we have a number of other experts that have also joined the committee. We have Karen Steele, who's a project manager, Bob O'Connor, who brings a lot of security and national law enforcement and high-level security issues and his expertise in that field. Chief Crowley sits on it representing the police force and brings that. What's that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And Nick Facette as well. He's also on it, Atkinson police officer. And Selectman Bill Baldwin co-chairs that with Chief Crowley. So that group of people really over the last 9 months, give or take, we've been working towards putting together all the facts that we could share with the people of Atkinson to garner support for this new station.
Well, that kind of, now that we know what your expertise is and why you're involved, I guess the most immediate question I think everyone wants to know is, why do we need a police station?
Well, it was, it's been a long process. I think people don't quite realize how long it's been. I can't tell you the exact date the whole thing began. It was like 2014 maybe or so. A committee was formed to look into just the feasibility of the project, just do the beginning due diligence for a project, find a parcel of land that might work, look into the ability of maybe hiring an architect to do preliminary work, to do a study of what was needed in a police station. And they did enough work that they actually, that committee came to the board in April of 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
I think it was, I think it was 2017. I could be wrong. My memories it was. That actually brought a proposal to the board to do the next step, which was to hire an architect to do a needs assessment for the official needs assessment. So that really, this is not something that just popped up overnight. It was delayed a little bit because of COVID. We probably would have been, our predecessor of a committee would have brought something forward probably 2 or 3 years ago without COVID. But it has been going on for a long time, a lot of due diligence, a lot of research.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of information that exists out there. I know that Connors has kind of stepped up and put a lot of factual information involved with the police station. And Chief Crowley's done a video showing the interior of the facility and the needs that are required for that. But from a larger perspective, the new police station has a lot of intrinsic things that you can't just look at a physical site and say, okay, yeah, this doesn't meet the requirements. We already know that. But there's some other things that really come into play in the police station. When you're out trying to recruit officers and police officers, we're in competition with every town in and around. And when you look at the police station, that's the work environment. That's where we are, as a town, are asking our police officers to go in and perform the duties that we expect them to do. As citizens, we have an obligation to provide them, and this goes to my health and safety background, a safe environment in which to work. And I know Matt can speak to some of the requirements in the building itself, but they have unsafe water conditions. They have their own internal water treatment facility because the water is unsafe to drink. We're asking our police officers to go into a facility, work in there 24 hours a day without water, essentially. You can't use water to make a pot of coffee or to take a sip of water. Or if they've been exposed to a chemical, put that water in their eyes to flush the chemicals out. It's really an unsafe conditions that these folks are working in. The facility has an abundance of asbestos, which is a known carcinogen, and that's just not safe for them to be in. This building was built in 1842. Just for perspective, right? The 10th president of the United States was elected during that time. The Civil War was 20 years Didn't happen until 20 years after this building was built. It's literally that old. We're asking our police officers and trying to recruit police officers from around the state to come and work there in a facility that predates the Civil War. It's been converted for multi-use. It was a schoolhouse at one point. It lay dormant for a number of years. Then in the 1960s, it became a police station. So it's been retrofit. On top of that, there are a number of issues that present potential liabilities to the people of Atkinson. For example, Chief Crowley brings it out in this video. There's a bar that the police officers use if they have a hostile suspect. Will handcuff that suspect, one on the wrist and then one on that bar. If that person gets violent or starts to, act out and they injure themselves because we don't have a proper holding facility, the town could be liable for the damages or the injuries that person presents, which, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, which could exceed the actual amount of the new police station that we're asking to build. So there are a number of issues that are, related to why we need a new one, but there's also, considerable construction problems with that facility that I'm sure Matt would be happy to discuss.
Sure. Yeah. You want to?
Well, so I've seen some of the questions on Facebook. One was, why can't we just retrofit the building? Well, you could. You're not going to gain any space, which is what they need. They don't have room for people they have in and out. Number two, what do you do with the police department while you retrofit? Right, that's a disaster waiting to happen. Where do you put everybody? Where do you put communications? Where do you moving the stuff's gonna? I don't think you're gonna save much at all by doing that. Someone also mentioned, hey, why can't we just put a second floor on that building? Well, because it's built in 1842, the foundation's made of granite block, so a second floor is probably gonna fall down. So there are a number of reasons why it doesn't make sense, and that's not a long-term fix. You're not gaining anything by putting a wallboard and new sinks or whatever. You're expanding the facility and bringing them up to code, quite honest, which it's not now. It fails every code, federal or state or local regulations they need.
So, actually, I assume you'd be the person to ask about this because there's a couple of topics that Dave brought up that I think some people don't understand. There was also, you mentioned there was asbestos in there. So, also, there's a cost to kind of mitigate that issue and then also the issue with water. So, could you maybe, if you can, elaborate how much that would cost to try to retrofit and fix that? Since everyone's saying that's possible.
The asbestos is kind of a wild card. It depends how much, where, why, and when. It's okay now because it's not airborne, but if anybody touches anywhere close to it and starts sending fibers out, now you've got a problem. Cost, I bet in that building you could run upwards of $100,000, and you're interrupting again. Where do you put the police guys while you're doing that? I mean, where the communication, where do the operations go? Where does everybody work out of? They can't work out of their houses, right? It's not a remote job. That in the water, I don't think there's any fix on the water. You're probably in a bad spot. You could drill a new well, but if you're getting bad water now, what's to say that you're not going to get bad water then?
So one way of looking at it, for I guess, for layman's terms, it's a money pit, pretty much.
Yeah, it really is. One of the things that Harriman, when they did the survey on the facility as well, the electrical wiring on it is substandard too. And when Matt was talking about bringing the building up to code, that's very expensive. When you start a new construction project, you have to bring everything up to code. So that means the electrical, ADA compliant, parking availability, access in and out of the facility, having places for the police cars to park, expanding the facility to what they need on that particular parcel of land just is not feasible. You would have no place for the officers to park, the vehicles to park, people that have to do business with that. The expansion that would be required, that lot is just too small to support that. So.
And I think another point that needs to be made is this town needed a new town hall and built one. This town needed a new fire department and built it. This town needed a library and built it. This town needed a shed to store salt in and built it. For the police? No. We have not done anything for the police. And I think it's very important for us to recognize that. We've asked our police force, our very, very fine police force that has protected us for, I don't know what the history is, but probably at least 100 years, 150 years, to to make do for all those years. And now here we are, where, I think it's time that we as citizens did something for our police force. Not something that's wanted, but something that's needed and that will work for the next 50 years. The design of this building is not something that will, be outgrown in 10 years. It's designed to work for 50 years. And I think it's very important for people to understand that.
And to add to that point, there's been a couple of towns where they put up new stations and try to cut costs and make it smaller, and they're already looking for additions on a new police station they built 5 to 10 years ago, which is what we don't want that to happen. We want a one-time cost, keep the cost down, the actual bond rate will go down and stand a little better. So it'll actually be less in the long run for us to pay for that.
Okay. And just to piggyback off that example, if whatever reason voters are still convinced they can make this smaller police station and decide to do add-ons, when they decide to do those add-ons, how much more would it cost over time to add those add-ons? Let's say hypothetically you had 4 sections, you decide to reduce them down to 2. How much would it cost to add like 2 more sections over time?
That's a tough one because, to Dave's point, where do you put it? You can't add on anything. There's no room to add on. If you add on, you have to take out parking, right? So now where do the police park? Where do the guys when they come to work park? They store their evidence, some of the evidence in sheds out back. That's ludicrous, right? That's not the way to do business. So there's no room on the lot to do what they need to do.
Yeah, and if you're talking about a new police station with the current design and trying to shrink that down, the current police station meets the minimum standards of all the accreditation that is required for a police station. Not having the police station meet those accreditation requirements opens the town again to liabilities when you have something that might go awry. The other thing you think about too is, like, say you wanted to take away the jail cells, for example, the holding cells. Jail cells, that's not the right term. Holding cells. There's a requirement to have separation between types of people that you're bringing in. So you have to have an adult male section that you have to have holding cell. You have to have a female cell. They have to be separated in as required by statute and the accreditation examples. The other thing is, if you have a juvenile, you cannot have the juvenile in the same cell with an adult. It opens the town again to liability. It's not common practice. It's a problem for any police station. So, when you're talking about trying to reduce certain sections down, this construction design that Harriman has put together for us meets all the minimum standards. There is nothing that's nice to have kind of things in this facility. It's the things that they need. It's set up in such a way to keep the space requirements for the lot that we have available to us. And at the end of the day, as Sam points out, this is a police station that's going to last 50 years. And that's the design for it. And there are some examples where we can expand later. That's already programmed into the current design. That helps you cut costs. I think, again, back and speak to that. When you have a facility that exists with no expansion availability, you have to knock down walls, rebuild foundations, rewire things. It becomes a nightmare for construction. Possible, yes. Expensive, yes. So we've looked at this design and tried to program these thoughts out to save the residents of Atkinson money in the long term.
Okay. And before I ask you about what's in this new design, I actually want to touch upon the point that you mentioned about the different holding cells. In our current situation, what is our holding cell situation? Just so everyone knows.
So, in a word, there are many. We have nothing. If the police need to take like a violent suspect, they have to take them over to Hillsborough. So, what we end up having to do is a police officer will take that person out of town and process them out of town, which takes away that officer from patrolling here in Atkinson or having the ability to respond. That's not really something that I think residents are interested in. We have a police force that we're paying for to protect us, not to leave to go process somebody who's committed a crime in our town. This gives us the opportunity with the new police station to process people that have been arrested, hold them, and keep our police force here in town as opposed to asking them to go to Brentwood to transport people away from our town.
And you know, I mean, there's a safety issue.
Oh, hold on a second. Point of clarification, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Brentwood. You didn't mean Hillsborough County. You meant Rockingham County, right?
I'm sorry, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Rockingham County, yes, thank you for the correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, and there's a cost associated with that too. Because the person can't do the policing job in the town, he's doing the transportation job. There's also the issue of a lot of the time, if they're a very violent suspect, they don't even bring them into the building. They leave them in the cruiser. That's a safety issue. It's a lot easier to break out of a cruiser than it is to break out of a holding cell. And I think, you know, we've been lucky. We've been very, very lucky for 30 years now.
But on top of that, if you get the violent, you know, perpetrator, they're gonna send 2 guys, right, in the car, just for safety reasons. Those 2 guys are gone. It's not in town anymore, patrolling the streets, and it probably runs into overtime, because how long it's gonna take them to process, or they're not gonna be first in line, there's gonna be other people there. So then all of a sudden, not only you left the 2 guys not there, they're getting time and a half or whatever the rates are after that to do their job, which technically they don't need to do.
Right. And I guess in terms of safety too, right? You mentioned staffing before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we're a little bit short-staffed right now.
We are.
Okay.
We are.
So if we lose 2 people, let's say there's a violent offender going all the way to Rockingham County, Brentwood, that leaves us with an even greater shortage. And hopefully there isn't another violent person
Exactly.
or accident or whatever else that might happen.
Our chief sometimes has to go out on patrol. Captain also sometimes has to go out on patrol. And that's actually not what they're being paid for. They're being paid to run the department. And it's not a very, again, it's an expensive use of taxpayers' money.
Well, it sounds like the need for a news station just goes beyond just simply just a building. There's logistical costs that I think a lot of people haven't realized that we've been, I guess, along the line.
Right.
And nobody loves wasting money, so I guess we should go right into it. Like, let's talk about what's in this new police station, and more importantly, where is this planning to be put? Because I know there was discussion about where can we put things when there's much land. So I don't know if one of you know.
I'll start. The location on Main Street across from
DH,
which is, to me, is a great location. It's not exactly central, but you can get everywhere pretty quickly. And people, you know, a lot of the complaints are, well, you know, I'm going to hear the people come busting out of the police station. Well, if you saw the metrics, that doesn't happen. You know, the guys on patrol are the ones that respond. So it's not in a residential neighborhood per se. Yes, it's zone residential, but it's on a state road, which is perfect, right? And they have access to everywhere along the line. And the town owns the lot, so there's no cost. That's the big starting.
Well, before we get into those details about the police station, that detail right there about the town owning the lot, like I know there's discussion by at least some folks out there that there could possibly be other land that could be worthwhile, but I would imagine town-owned property is the best property to work with, correct?
Yeah, so one of the things that happened, because the town owned the property, there was actually a survey done. Is it feasible to put a police station here based on the construction requirements that would exist for a particular police station? So they surveyed all the town lots that the town owned. There has been a proposal for a purchase of a plot of land where a current home resides. That has never been cited. There's open water on that site, which presents its own construction problems. So purchasing an existing home where a lot survey has not been completed, in my opinion, as a tax, payer here in this town, is a waste of money. There's no guarantee that even if that lot was purchased with the home as it exists, that it could ever be converted into a police station. The second part of that is that particular home in the location of it is right across the street from the school. I will tell you from my police background that in the event that you have a significant event at the school, a cordon is built, which is a safe zone and a buffer zone that expands the size based on the threat. So if you have a shoot, a bomb threat. That grows. That puts the police station on that inside that cordon, which would also need to be evacuated. So the feasibility of having something that close to both the school and the town hall doesn't make sense from a tactical situation as a police officer. And in most cases, again, as this safe corridor or cordon builds, the police station falls in that, and now your communication and people that are inside the police station have to evacuate along with everybody else. That's very problematic for police operations. So the site that exists where the proposed police station is going is really a great location for what town needs, and the fact that it's land that the town already owns really makes a lot of sense.
All right.
One other thing the chief mentioned the other day that I keep forgetting about that makes that a great piece of property for police station is it's on a high of land and has direct visual sight to the communications radio tower, which makes it actually, just from that perspective alone, one of the best sites in town. It may not be one of the best sites in town from other perspectives, but from that side alone, it's one of the best sites in town. It's also on a state road, it's got water. It meets a lot of the really important criteria.
Yeah, it requires less equipment to maintain communications to within the town, fewer repeaters, and line of sight. So again, Sam makes a great point that really is a great site for communications.
That's very important to know. All right, and we've delayed this enough. What is going on with the new police station? How are we building this? How much is it going to cost? Who would like to go first?
So I'll take it first. So it's going a lot there. Harriman Associates has done a great job on conceptual design. The land is sloping, but they've taken that into consideration. It's a walk-in and then walk out of the bottom. They've spent a lot of time worrying about the neighbors, even though it's a residential neighborhood, but it's not a residential neighborhood per se. It's its own residential, but there are neighbors, so they considered it. So they're using the lot to their favor. They're coming down in the back in order to transport or put prisoners in and out. They built it's got a carport on it. The door opens, you go in, the door closes. That does a couple things. It keeps the prisoner from able to escape, to get out, you're locked in. Neighbors aren't going to hear anything. They're going to be yelling and screaming and then fighting with the guy, hopefully not, but they're not going to hear that. They walk right in the building, all the processing is right there. All the administrators on the first floor, the team meeting rooms, the offices, and walk into the lobby. That way those are separated as well. The holding cells are down there, so it's a nice separation. If you look at the renderings on the website, the building looks like it belongs there. It looks like it fits in the neighborhood. People say, "Oh, the police station in my neighborhood." If you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
Yeah. You mentioned holding cells, carport, the fact that it's designed to look like it's within the neighborhood. What else does the police station have?
Yeah, so it has a small gym for the police officers to maintain their physical fitness, which is a requirement. The building concept meets all building specs for today's police station. I talked a little bit earlier about the accreditation requirements. It's set up in such a way that all minimum things are required. A room for the communications equipment that's properly ventilated, so that the computer equipment doesn't overheat and it burns out. It has a mechanical room to maintain the ventilation systems, the heating, air, and cooling. It's on public water access, right? So it's on hot water. So we don't have to drill a well like we do in the current police station that requires a big treatment facility. Water is accessible right from the street, which will feed to, the showers, the restrooms. They'll have potable water to make a cup of coffee if they so choose. But
Not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
that's an important distinction based on what we currently have. Police cannot use water for drinking.
That's correct.
They also can use water for taking a shower.
That is bottom line. And they can't shower.
Point of fact, in the old police station, they can't shower. There's no showers. So if it just came up, it happened not that long ago. A gentleman chased a suspect into the swamp. All nasty. Now he's got to go home to shower. So now he's gone for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes. There's no facilities for these guys to do. There's no, you can change, but there's 26 lockers and everybody's on top of each other type of thing. So this creates, men and women shower. So They could do what they have to do, still be there, still be on duty, and still do what they.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and like Matt said, there's separate locker rooms for male and female. There's a room that's set up in case a suspect is brought in. They have a lawyer that they need to talk to. They have access to that. There's a foyer area. There's a dispatch area. You know, all the things you would associate with professional police force and building that supports them.
And just for the viewers out there who may have not seen the video, in contrast to what you're describing and what I remember seeing in the video, they've converted this school and there's a lot of narrow hallways. The area in which you mentioned, like, for example, a suspect being with a lawyer, probably smaller than the room we're in right now, with a lawyer on a TV screen, and like you're like pretty much the same distance we are right now between the suspect and like the officer who booked him.
Yeah, and you always, as a police officer, you always want to maintain a level of safe distance from people that you're processing. And the current police station that we have, you know, with a suspect potentially handcuffed to a bar, the officer is literally on the other side of the desk doing all the processing, the lawyer beaming in. That's also partially, I think there's a little bit of a break area that this doubles in as well. Mm-hmm. So that multi-use room is much smaller than the room we're currently in, and presents not just a logistical nightmare for officers trying to do the job, but a danger to the officers as well, which that increases the liability to the town should we be sued in case someone gets injured.
I would like also to point out that we keep calling it a former school. It wasn't a former school. It was in the concept of what we think is a school today. It was actually where I believe second grade was held. I think there were 2 or 3 classrooms for second grade, and that was it. You know, it wasn't a full school. It was an extra space, a temporary extra space solution from the 1960s to the 1980s.
Correct. And actually even before that, like the 1800s, it was also a church.
Right.
Yeah, it was originally constructed as a church. Yeah.
Well, we didn't touch upon this, and I think it's a question for you, Sam. How are we going to pay for that?
That's the real question.
That's why Sam's here.
That's the $99 question, $64,000 question, whatever. We're going to pay for it in a combination of ways. First way is we have a contract signed with the builder, and correct me if I'm using the wrong language, guys, in which basically they have guaranteed to build this building at a cost of $9.4 million. They also
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed. Exactly.
It
could be less than that. It could actually be less. Not to exceed $9.4 million. Good point. And they're also, you know, if there are issues that need to be repaired later on, they will be on the hook for those too for a period of 5 to 10 years, depending on what it is that has a problem. So there, you know, we've got construction that's going to be done right and done well. We also have the advantage of guys like Matt, Bob, and Karen involved in this process as well to supervise and make sure it gets done correctly. This committee is not to disband if the warrant article passes and we start to fund it. This committee is going to exist until the building is complete. Second then question is, okay, how do you pay for the $9.4 million? Not to exceed $9.4 million. And the way that's going to be done is twofold. The Board of Selectmen have already decided that there's about $1 million worth of property that the town could sell. So, you know, right there, we basically have an arbitrage of about $1.5 million that of cost savings to the taxpayers to build this building. Because if you look at the alternative proposal for to buy a piece of property, that proposal is about $720,000. I don't know whether that's high, low, what. So use a number of $500,000 or $600,000. Add that to the $1 million of selling land, and you have the $1.5 million or so savings in this project. If we had to buy a piece of property, it wouldn't cost $9.4 million. It would cost well over $10 million. So that cuts us down to 8.4. That $1 million in property sales would cut us down to 8.4. The way we're going to pay for that is with a bond. Bond will be sold through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Authority, if I'm getting that name right. But there is a facility that groups the town bonds into packages that then sells to investors. Right now, the projected interest rate for that is, the latest number we have is 3.75%. So it's probably going to be somewhere between 2.5% and 4%. They're projecting for it to be priced out in July. And if you use their 3.75% number, that basically translates to a payment of about, in the first year, about $200 a year for a $500,000 house. And that payment will go up and down by about $15 for every, if you have a $400,000 house, it's going to be about $15 less. If you have a $600,000 house, it's going to be about $16 more. So that's how that works out. That payment also declines over time because there's a special kind of, it's not like a mortgage. The mortgage you do is fixed rate for the entire 25, 30, 15, whatever it is period of the loan. This is actually what they call a declining principal loan. So every year the town is going to pay off about $350,000 worth of the principal. That's going to reduce the interest cost, which is in turn going to reduce the impact of the bond on your tax bill. That you'll get that effect in the very first year. It'll be reduced by about, it won't be much. It'll be about a couple bucks, but it does reduce it by about 50%. So in the 25th year, your $200 payment a year is going to be about $110 a year, maybe $100 a year.
Just to reiterate, there was a lot of rumors floating around that $200 was a month. People were saying on the Facebook page and everything else. That's $200 a year per resident. $16 a month, something like that.
Yeah, $16.
So,
and so it really is not that expensive when you think about it. To have a facility which will be built in a year. This is a 12-month project. This is not something that's going to take 5 years to build. It's a 12-month project. To have a facility within a year that we intend and plan to last for 50 years for a grand total of about, on average, $150 a month over 25 years. That's if you take the difference between the $200 the first year and $100 the last year. I think that's a fantastic deal. I think that is the very definition of planning and foresight by the select board members and the people who put this committee together 10 years ago. And I'm just happy to be on a committee that's only just implementing that plan now, rather than have made all those great decisions in past years to arrive at this point.
Okay. And I just want to ask this because I've heard about this. People say all sorts of things, but was there a possibility of a grant being applied for to help reduce costs over time?
That would be the third way that this would be reduced. As I said, $8.4 million is the maximum amount of bonds we're gonna go for.
we haven't brought that up many times because there's no guarantees. It would just be a bonus. And we think we have a good opportunity for it. We don't want to tell taxpayers of something that we're not sure we're going to get. But if we get it, again, that rate will just come down.
And it's something we're pursuing. Obviously, as members of the police steering committee, we're all residents here. We certainly would like to have an impact on our own taxes. Mm-hmm. So being aggressive and trying to seek out grants that would help reduce the overall bond that we would need to take, which correspondingly reduce the amount of taxes we'd have to pay, is in our best interest as well. So it's something that we are pursuing. But as Matt points out, you're competing against other towns that are also seeking these same grants. But, hey, we're going to throw our hat in the ring and give it our best effort. And if it comes to fruition, we just save that much more money. So good on all of us if we're able to do it.
Yeah, and one of the key factors, though, is we won't know about the grant, which we're hoping to be, I think, 3 or 4 million, 2 to 4 million maybe. We won't know about that grant until after election. So we have to, we're not trying to sell false credit. We might not get that grant.
Right.
So we have to make this decision based on this maximum cost. We might get lucky. There's a good chance we get lucky, and it'll be less. But that decision, the decision to fund this project has to be made, sadly, without that knowledge, because these kind of fundings, you usually have to have something in place before anybody's going to give you any money for it to come.
Okay. But at the very least, when you consider that the fact that the maximum cost without the grant is like $200 annually, with the grant, you could possibly shape that by 33%.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. So it's not that bad the way it is right now, and it could be even, I don't want to say less worse, but not as bad.
Right.
Even further.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. There's a lot of deliberation about the new police station happening on social media, right? There's been pages that have been set up with people with their own rational self-interest against the police station. For example, one of the people that's most vocal about not wanting this police station lives right next door to the police station. The person doesn't necessarily disclose that on social media that, hey, they're building this right next door and this is why I'm against it. But that does exist. And there's other people in town that say, not at this time. Well, it's been, since the mid 1800s.
Not at this time. When it wasn't at this time, the first board were 30% higher cost.
Right.
So you can say now at this time, and then you can pay 10%, 12% inflation every year that you don't have it.
Yeah. So, at some point, the town needs to make a decision that our police force is worthy of a new police station. The conditions that they're working on right now we need to give them the things that they need to help them protect us. And it's a small investment, it's like, I think Salem's new police station is like $31 million projected cost,
In the big picture, it's hard to translate to the taxpayers, but all those things we talked about, the police being gone, the overtime, all that. Yes, that's on the budget committee side, and it's not going to go on the bond committee, but that money that's saved having a new building is going to come back into play to the town budget, and it's going to lower. It's not directly because of this, but the people are going to see savings, just not going to know where it's coming from.
I think there's another important thing that the library bond also gets paid off.
Right.
2 more years.
In 3 more years.
3 more.
I think the last payment's 27.
So that's going to come off of the residents' taxes. So there's going to be a tax savings once that happens.
And on top of that, the building and police station were built under contract, a general contractor contract to the town.
Mhm.
That GC was the same one that built both. Regardless, I think both, if not, are business no longer in. Both buildings have problems. So the town is footing that bill to fix all these problems that happen with this general contractor who should have owned it. We're going a different approach in the contract. We're going to see them at risk. That means we stay involved, the town stays involved, we see everything. It's not us against them. It's us with them, the GC. The GC we chose is very reputable. They're still going back to jobs 10 years later to fix stuff that, may or may not have been their fault, but that's just how they do business. So it's going to be one time. That's it. If there's a problem a year or 2 or 3 years down the road, it's not going to be a bill to the taxpayers. They're going to come and fix it.
Yeah,
It's really important when you're talking about construction. Many construction companies, come up, they form, they get a bid, they win the bid, they do a shoddy job of the construction project, and then the town or whoever owns that project, has to deal with all the problems that come out of it. There were some issues at Plastow Police Station, primarily due to some of the cuts that, like you were talking about, where they said, well, you don't need that, so cut this, cut that. There were some construction issues that popped up in that. We decided to go with somebody, as Matt points out, that's very reputable, has a great reputation for several decades of construction management.
50 years ago.
Yeah, and they stand behind the workmanship that they on projects that they work on. So we felt really good about making that selection along with Harriman. And so Harvey Construction, who was selected to do construction, works very closely with Harriman, who has oversight of the job, and they work with us and the town to make sure that this project goes to smoothly, and the quality of the construction is there.
Yeah. We're getting close to the end of this interview here, but we need to talk about the most important thing, right? The part that gets the voters engaged, which is what is the warrant article going to look like? How it's going to be worded? And say to be willing to appropriate in the first year as a town.
My understanding is the town is not going to appropriate anything the first year. As I said, the bond, the current plan is for the bond, if the warrant passes, and we should say, this warrant has to pass with 60% vote. Because of the size of the bond, any bond request over $100,000, you have to have 60% of votes. So we need everybody to come out and vote on this, please. That said, bond will be priced in July. Priced in June and issued in July or something like that. I don't have the calendar memorized, but it won't be priced until July. There is no initial payment. First payment would then be in January. So the actual outlay for us, we would receive the funds in July. We would have the contractor start immediately after, probably in early September. Construction would be already, probably a third of the way through by the time we get the first payment of about, probably I think a little about $700,000 at 3.75%, which would obviously be in next year's budget. But that won't be till January. So there is no initial outlay in 2024. First outlay begins in 20, and then the last one will be in the year 2049. I guess.
So just for clarification, if it passes, technically our next tax bill we actually wouldn't see an increase related to it, right?
No, because I think now, not experienced enough of these things to say. I've only been on a budget committee 2 years. But my understanding is the tax bill was just increased was for this year. So the next increase in the tax bill, which would occur next fall, would be for that.
Okay.
But we wouldn't actually start paying it until 2025.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And the next one question, I guess, would be what fails? What happens to the town?
So we're basically business as usual, right? The police stay in the police station. We have the committee stays on track, and we try again next year. At that point, no guarantee that it won't cost more. Like construction costs go up, material costs go up.
In fact, I would guarantee that it's going to cost probably 5% more.
Yeah, and and the bond rate could increase. So there's a time to strike and time to make a decision. Are the police important to the residents of Atkinson? Do we want to give them the facilities that they deserve based on the standards of the police station that they should be living in, not based on, the 1840s when this was constructed and, horsepower was the way we got around, right? And, I think, we will have to continue to compete with other towns to say, we would like you to come on and be a police officer here in Atkinson. And one of the things that would be hanging over our heads if this doesn't pass is that the town residents don't stand behind you to give you a new police station. So do you want to join us or do you want to go to another town that has a brand new police station? We will be constantly fighting with people
And
to
we're continually incurring those additional costs for that building that we shouldn't have to.
right.
The heating unit went out a year and a half ago. I would imagine something else is going to go out in the next year and a half if we don't start building the police station.
Did you also have a generator go out a couple years before that?
Yeah.
Not to mention the asbestos thing. It's gonna rear its ugly head at some point. At some point, the building could get condemned. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but at some point, there's a health issue. No question about it.
And what Dave says about the understaffing issue is really important. We've been understaffed for several years, at least 3 years. We are currently understaffed by 3 full-time officers. One of those officers has actually been hired. He's in the police academy, but it's not. We don't have the staffing issues until he graduates from the police academy. One of those is also someone who's out on leave for injury, who will be coming back. But there's still not one more, and we have been understaffed by at least one for 3 years, and I don't think that says the right things about our towns and the kind of things we believe.
Yeah, it doesn't serve us as residents very well. None of us. And I
And it
think
doesn't serve the officers very well either.
exactly right.
So I want to just touch upon one thing you said. You said if the warrant would fail, you would kind of go back as we just kind of operate as business as usual. But that technically it's not true. I mean, as a committee, you've all kind of covered all sorts of different things that basically said no, we really shouldn't continue as business as usual. Technically, this should pass, whether or not we can summon it as voters.
Yeah, no, and when I'm saying business as usual, we're talking about the continued degradation of the current police station, the continued problems that we're going to have recruiting people. Those things are not going to go away if this doesn't pass. So, we have an uphill fight with trying to keep the police station up and running and what little viability it has since it can't get accredited through any police organization that says, yes, this meets the minimum standards of a police station. We can't do that. So, yeah, we have our work cut out for it. I think we've put a lot of effort and a lot of our time into it. You know, again, this is a volunteer effort. We did. I mean, initially when I joined, I'm going to be honest, I was like, we really need a new police station? Yeah, I was convinced very quickly once I got a chance to see it and hear what was going on. Yeah, I came in with, you know, a bit of skepticism. I'm completely blind at this point.
Okay. I think I've touched upon everything. At least I want to ask, is there anything else that you guys want to add that I didn't mention or bring up?
I think there's something that Chief Crowley says over and over again when we're at these meetings. And I think it is absolutely the truth about this, and we've touched on it already. This is not a want. This is not a happy pie in the sky thing. This is something this town really, really needs. It's an investment we have put off for years and years in this town, and I cannot put this investment off.
Yes, the other thing I would share is there's a Facebook page associated with getting factual information out of the police station that Bob Connors is running. All that information is factually based. There are other social media posts that are out there that people who are against it for whatever reason they're against it, but they have a tendency to use less than honest arguments and
Exaggerated costs.
and dubious facts at best. And so we're dedicated to putting the facts out to the voters so that they understand the need for the police station. And there's no agenda there. It's all fact-based. So I would encourage people to get their information about the police station from that site.
All right.
And if you've got the time, go down and visit the police station. Or watch the video. Watch the video that the chief put together.
We've had several open houses that have been great turnout. Please come up, see the police station, talk to the chief, talk to the captain, and find out what the issues are, from first hand.
Great. Well, Dave, Sam, and Matt, thank you for all sitting down with me and letting myself and all the other viewers and voters out there the information about this new station. Hopeful that it works out for the town.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.
Yeah, thanks.
The Atkinson Gazette is an independently produced program delivering information, interviews, and events in and around Atkinson. For more information about this program, you can go to facebook.com/Atkinson Gazette, or you can find this clip and many other clips on YouTube at Atkinson Gazette.